Episode 7 of IT Welcome to Derry, titled The Black Spot, is yet another hour of non-stop horror. We're talking about a horrific race massacre, the tragic tale of the real Pennywise the Dancing Clown, played by Bill Skarsgård, and the full, awful power of the Deadlights. Spoilers ahead for Episode 7, now streaming on HBO Max. The origin of Pennywise. So Episode 7 opens with a flashback to 1908. And this is where we finally get answers about how and why the evil cosmic entity known as It glommed onto a dancing clown in the first place. Apparently, the original Pennywise starred in this sad sack comic sketch about missing his dead wife. He performed as Periwinkle the Clown, and he actually amused the local kids with his pathetic nature. His adoring daughter Ingrid, played by Emma Lee Cullum, just sees how happy the kids are after her daddy's act. But what she doesn't see is the cruel twist at the end. His act ends with children storming the stage to bully him. And it's this ability to lure children that initially appeals to It. Pennywise in full evil form. Throughout the rest of the episode, though, Pennywise appears in his full evil form. He presides over the absolute carnage that erupts at the black spot, happily gnawing at the faces of his victims. Brutal stuff. When the adult Ingrid, now played by Madeleine Stowe, finally confronts Pennywise as Periwinkle, she reveals something shocking. She admits that she tipped Derry's racist police chief Clint Bowers, played by Peter Outerbridge, about her own lover Hank Grogan, played by Stephen Ryder, hiding at the bar. Why? Because she wanted to incite as much violence as possible to lure Pennywise out. But when Ingrid finally begins to wise up to the reality that Pennywise is a step-war It and not her father, it hits her with the Deadlights, leaving her in a nearly comatose state. The military unleashes It. Now, this isn't the only time the Deadlights come out in Episode 7. The episode ends with the Seven, It going back into hibernation, but then the US military lures the evil back out by breaking one of the pillars keeping him caged. Will Hanlon, played by Jovan Adepo, tries to stop this, but it's no use. General Francis Shaw, played by James Remar, is convinced that it must be unleashed to keep people united in fear. And so, Episode 7 ends with a fully liberated Pennywise preying upon Will Hanlon, played by Blake Cameron James. The last thing we see is Pennywise, donning indigenous war paint, pouncing on the boy and flashing the Deadlights at him. So what are the Deadlights? Alright, so what are the Deadlights? What do they do to a person? And will Will survive? Let me break it down for you. Pennywise hits not one, but two characters with an eerily evil blast of orange light in Episode 7. These are the Deadlights, and they are a core part of its powers and very nature. The Deadlights are a grotesque, eternal, eldritch horror. These lights are deadly, mysterious, and not just 104. Its superpowers, its truest, nakedest form. Underneath Pennywise and all of its other incarnations, the Deadlights are what it essentially is. A blinding, gaping maw that doesn't just kill the physical flesh, but also devours souls. The Deadlights in Stephen King's canon. The Deadlights appear throughout Stephen King's canon, not just as the essence of It, but as the powers of his universe's overarching villain, the Crimson King. However, they're most commonly identified with It, thanks to the role they play in the book and various film and television adaptations. In Stephen King's It novel, Pennywise hits bully Henry Bowers with the Deadlights, transforming him into a loyal foot soldier to his cause. Later in the book, it uses the Deadlights to put Bill Denbrough's wife Audra into a catatonic state. She only wakes up from it after he revives her with a ride on his childhood bike, Silver. In Andy Muschietti's It movie, young Beverly Marsh, played by Sophia Lillis, falls under the Deadlights' spell, but is saved with a kiss from Ben Hanscom, played by Jeremy Ray Taylor. And in IT, Chapter 2, adult Richie Tozier, played by Bill Hader, also gets caught in the Deadlights' thrall until Eddie Kaspbrak, played by James Ransom, saves him. What the Deadlights do to victims. The Deadlights can have all sorts of debilitating influences on their victims, from causing insanity to putting them in a catatonic state. We've already seen that although Ingrid Kirsch appears to be in a coma, her head snapped at the children in Episode 7. So expect Ingrid to likely be a tool of Pennywise in next week's finale. What about Will Hanlon? So what about Will Hanlon? We know that Will is destined to grow up to be Mike Hanlon's father, but it's unclear what state he'll be left in. In King's novel, Will raised Mike on the family's thriving farm. However, in Muschietti's films, Mike's parents, played by Chosen Jacobs as the young version, both died in a fire when he was young, so he was raised by his jaded grandfather Leroy, played by Stephen Williams. In it, Mike has to convince his grandfather that he's not like his father Will. It's unclear whether Leroy and Will's acrimony will continue to evolve naturally between the events of the show and films, or if Will will be somehow altered by his experiences with the Deadlights. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe for more.